Colorado has some of the most breathtaking natural areas in the entire country. But out of all of the places in the state to explore, there's possibly none more well known than Rocky Mountain National Park. Consisting of well over 250,000 acres and hosting over 4 million people annually, this park is one of the state's top tourist attractions for sure. We visited the park to see the incredible landscapes and find out what it's like to go birding there. Before even getting to the park though, we got distracted by the sights along the way. We're on our way to Rocky Mountain National Park, and we just stopped at a pull-off to catch this incredible view. And I have a feeling the views are probably going to continue to get better, but you can just look over this expanse and be impressed by the trees and the water down there and the snow-capped mountains in the background. It's so cool. To get to Rocky Mountain National Park, we actually had to make a reservation yesterday. We're supposed to get in around 11 o'clock. They kind of give you a window where you can get in between this time and this time. So if you're coming to Rocky Mountain National Park, it's good to get that reservation beforehand because it can get pretty busy and you may not be able to get in otherwise. After a little more driving, we stopped at the visitor center, then entered the park and started birding, with our first species on the board being herd only. We have our first birds on the board here at Rocky Mountain National Park. White-crowned sparrow singing very vigorously somewhere in the distance, so heard it very clearly, didn't get a look at it though, and then robin also singing. So got a couple herd only so far. Hopefully as we move along we'll get some actual looks at some birds. With no birds visible at our first stop, we realized it may be difficult to find them in this particular park at this time of the year.
So one thing we've talked about is we think it's going to be pretty difficult to find birds up here because it's high elevation. A lot of the eBird checklists don't look like they have a ton of species. So as we kind of climb up, we think it's going to be harder to find birds. So really anything we can get we'll be happy with, but of course there are a couple targets we're going to look especially hard for.
We continued on, pulling off the road to listen and hopefully get eyes on some birds. While doing this, it was a different animal that caught our attention.
We just got a moose. It crossed the road. We actually pulled over to listen for birds and then we saw it cross the roads. That's a very majestic creature that we've yet to see on our trip. So score 1 for Rocky Mountain National Park.
After our moose sighting, we decided to change tactics.
So for birds, we didn't have much luck kind of pulling over. We were hearing stuff but not seeing stuff. So we stopped at a picnic area that we can actually walk around in, and we were hearing ruby-crowned kinglet. There was a raven, so we're going to see if we can get some views because I'm kind of sick of herd-only birds.
Our new strategy paid off, as we managed to actually see some bird species at home in the lower elevation parts of the park.
Just had Lincoln sparrow and Wilson's warbler that came really close. Got some amazing views of that. Cute bird with the little black cap, yellow body. So if you are patient, the birds are here to find. I do think as we get higher in elevation, it's going to be tough. So we're trying to kind of enjoy these lower elevation species because I think it's going to get pretty sparse.
We also encountered a bird at home in just about every elevation of the park.
What's got there?
Got a mountain bluebird, which is great for this habitat because we're surrounded by mountains. So it feels like a very appropriate place for it to be. One of my favorite thrush species because I think out of all the bluebirds, it's honestly the prettiest. In addition to the mountain bluebird, a yellow-rumped warbler also flew in, displaying its beautiful coloration. Feeling like we had a good sample of the lower elevation species of Rocky Mountain National Park, we started going up in elevation. That was definitely a nice stop. Got an actual variety of warblers with the Wilsons and then also the yellow rumps. And I love the yellow rumps out west because they have that beautiful yellow throat. And they just look a little more colorful than the ones that we have in the east. Also, can't forget about the mountain bluebird, a classic western species. So now that we found some of the stuff in lower elevation, we're going to keep climbing up and get to a spot where we might find a few more of the high elevation species. As we started our journey upward, a prominent feature of these mountains started appearing. Something that's always fun about going up in elevation is that you start to see the patches of snow. And sometimes that snow can get really thick too and really high up. So we're looking at the sides of the road now and we do see a good pack of snow that's probably about like 4 or 5 feet deep in some places. And that snow all turns into runoff then that feeds into the rivers and actually kind of provides life for the valley really. So this is a very important part of how the ecosystem works here in Colorado and other places with mountains like this. We made a stop at an area with a lot of snow that also had a lot of birds present.
We're much higher in elevation now. There's snow right here. We've heard pine siskins, red-breasted nuthatch. There was a perched violet green swallow. So even though we're higher up in elevation, we're still seeing some cool birds. But I do think as we go even higher, it's going to get even less, and it's going to be harder to find species. So we're enjoying it while we can, but look at the beautiful scenery. Everywhere here in Colorado has been gorgeous. This is no exception.
In addition to these birds, we also found a species that can be difficult to locate. Just got Canada jay. That's a cool bird. That's the first one we've seen in Colorado. Definitely a good habitat for them. So this little stop has actually been really productive.
Look at my blurry photo.
Got him. With the blur.
It's bad, but it's identified.
It's bad, but it's good. After a short but successful stop, we drove even higher up to the point where the landscape drastically changed. This was the elevation that would give us the best chance to find two birds that are specialties of the park, the white-tailed ptarmigan and the brown-capped Rosy finch. Both are known to reside in the park year-round, but both can be incredibly difficult to find, especially during this time of the year. We arrived at a spot that, based on eBird reports, would at least give us a chance.
So this is the apparently famous ptarmigan switchback. So you park here and then walk this trail. We've actually had some awesome birds already. We had an American pipit and a mountain bluebird and some marmots. So we're gonna walk the trail, see if we can find ptarmigan or Rosy finch. Feels like it's a tough ask, but if we don't see that, it's still really cool to be up here.
I think the odds of finding either brown-capped Rosy finch or the white-tailed ptarmigan are really low, but you got to put yourself in the position to have success. And as Derek said, it's so beautiful out here. Just finding any birds up here is a real treat. We walked out on the trail hoping to somehow spot a ptarmigan, even though the task seemed daunting.
We are looking for ptarmigan, and it is difficult because their camouflage is so good. We had a couple fake outs, but I don't think we've seen one yet. I was wondering if maybe we've laid eyes on one, and you would never know. But we're also listening for Rosy finch, seeing a couple other things out here. But it's just really cool to have a chance to see such cool birds.
We got to a point in the trail where we could see well into the distance, but couldn't find any ptarmigans. I think this is the last place here that we're gonna hit before moving on down the road, but there's a lot going on here bird-wise, honestly. And there's ptarmigan out here somewhere, and brown-capped Rosy finch out here somewhere. We headed back the way we came. While walking, we had an up-close encounter with a species we had seen earlier. That was a really cool American pipit sighting. Two of them were really close to the trail, and what I'm used to seeing from them is them just showing up during migration in mud flats and sometimes on beaches and stuff like that. So seeing them in this mountain tundra environment is a really nice way to see them instead of the migratory way. It just looks like they belong here more. On the way back to the car, we had one more interesting sighting. On the way back from that trail, we got a long-distance flyby Clark's nutcracker, which is a really cool bird. We've seen them in other places that are high elevation, and really glad to get that. We did not find any ptarmigan, did not find any Rosy finches, but I'm honestly not disappointed because that was such a great lookout point, and we did find a bunch of other really nice birds for the area. So even if we don't find those species, this has still been worth it for sure. Next, we made a brief stop at the Alpine Visitor Center that provided another extraordinary view. Then, we went to a well-known spot to try and find one of the cutest mammals in the park, the pika. We're in the pika spot. This is a spot everyone goes to see pikas, and there are also a ton of marmots down here. The marmots are like chunky groundhogs. I think groundhogs are actually in the marmot family, but you just see them kind of lumbering around here, and then behind you just see the cliff edge. So this is two very interesting Colorado mammal species that you can look at in this area. There's a pika. There's one in a hole.
Pika might get my vote for cutest mammal we've seen. They go about their business and then all of a sudden they perk up. And their ears are just so small and cute, but really fun to watch these pika.
After easily finding both pikas and marmots, we walked a trail that goes through the alpine tundra. We're on another trail right now, and only bird I've seen so far here is common raven, which honestly, in my opinion, is a great bird. I'm a huge common raven fan. Get the vibe that the more time you spend in this habitat, the more chance you have of seeing some of these birds that are more chance encounters. So we might go all the way up, we might stop here because it's pretty high up. On this trail, we found one more bird species. Added another bird to the list when we saw horned lark here. We've been hearing them kind of twitter, but we want to get a nice look at one, and there was one just walking around in the grass. Species we're used to seeing, but not used to seeing in this kind of environment, so thumbs up for that one. Up in the higher elevation part of the park, we had one more interesting mammal encounter. Just got a close-up elk encounter, and there are actually a lot of elk around here. They're a really common sight to see, and that was the closest so far. One just crossed the road right in front of us. Another nice mammal species to enjoy in Rocky Mountain National Park. After spending a good amount of time in the high elevation habitats of the park, we made our descent. We are now on our way to going down in elevation, so we are probably pretty much done with birding because we're going to go back into the habitat we've already hit. But if we see anything interesting on the way out, we'll let you know for sure. This was a really fantastic experience. The birds we saw were actually pretty good, and it was really unique to see them in these places that are so atypical for where we usually see them, and to get some species that are typical western birds as well. So I would definitely recommend giving this national park a look if you're wanting to go birding, or if you're just wanting to see incredible wildlife too.
We had so many pipits. Like, I did not expect American pipit to be one of the most common things we saw. So come to Rocky Mountain National Park and see the pipits.
Before leaving the park, we did actually have one more interesting encounter. We did have one more cool sighting on the way out. It was not a bird though, it was bighorn sheep just along the side of the road. So we pulled over and got to take some videos of them, and there was even a young one too. So it was a really nice thing to see all those bighorn sheep together, and really great views of them. Perfect way to cap off our trip to Rocky Mountain National Park. Our trip through Rocky Mountain National Park was excellent, consisting of impressive mammals, beautiful scenery, and unique birds. While we didn't find the elusive white-tailed ptarmigan or brown-capped Rosy finch, it was still totally worth the trip. If you liked this video, take a look at one of these. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Badgerland Birding.